Hey guys, and happy Thursday. Today is May 14th. This is for Math 1, and today we're going to be talking about writing exponential equations from a situation. So this is building on what we've already done, okay? Nothing super new. So let's look at our first, just to review, first of all, y equals a times b to the x is our formula that we use for exponentials. Remember that the a is the y-intercept, or the starting value, the zero value, and b is the multiplier. Okay, so let's look at a situation, okay? So it says Luna's bank account balance begins with $100 and she increases her savings by 4% each year. Write an exponential equation that represents the situation. Okay, so she begins with $100, so that means that your A value is $100. That's the starting value, okay? And she increases her savings by 4% each year. So to find the B, remember I start with my 100%, right? And then she's increasing. So this is the original. Remember, 100% is the original. That's like this money right here, right? And she's increasing. That's why I'm adding by 4%. So that's 104%. And then remember, we turn 104% into a decimal. So we do that by doing 104 divided by 100, which is 1.04. So our B value is 1.04. And so then we can write our equation. So y equals A goes first, 100, starting value, times B goes next, 1.04 to the x power. I kind of don't like using the dot for the times and then a decimal here. It looks kind of weird. So remember, you can also write it as parentheses. That's exactly the same thing. Same thing. There's my equation. Let's look at another example. Okay, so this example says Melody bought a car for $54,000. It depreciates by 12% each year. Write an exponential equation that represents the situation. So the car was initially $54,000, so that's our A value, 54,000, because that's the initial cost. And then I started with the original 100%. Remember, that's my original. And it depreciates, so that means subtract, right? Depreciating by 12%. So then 100 minus 12 gives me 88%. And then I got to turn that 88% into a decimal. So I do 88 over 100, because remember, percents are out of 100. 88 divided by 100 on my calculator gives me 0.88. So my multiplier is 0.88. So I can write my final equation. Y equals, starting value first, 54,000 times, and I'm going to use parentheses, my B value, 0.88 to the x. And there's my equation. Again, I'm just using parentheses. I don't really like using a dot when I have a decimal because it's confusing. But it is the same. Okay, let's look at one more just to be sure we're okay. This one's a little different, so just to be sure. It says each year the local country club sponsors a tennis tournament. During each round, half of the players are eliminated. On round 3, there were 16 players left. How many players started in the tournament? Write an exponential equation that represents the situation. So they don't give us the zero value this time, but they do say that half of the players are eliminated. So that's actually the B value. So our B value is half. They gave us the B this time, and we need to find out what the A value is. And there's lots of things you could do, but I'm going to go ahead and do it both ways. I'm going to use a table so you can see it that way. So then this would be my X and my Y. So I want to find the zero term, and I have the third round. So on the third round, there were 16 players. And remember, this half means dividing by 2. Remember, this symbol is division. So if going forwards, I'm dividing by 2, and that means going backwards, I'm multiplying by 2. So that means at round 2, I had 32 times 2 again. At round 1, I had 64 times 2 again, and at round 0 I had 128. So there's my A value. The other way that you could do it is you could substitute like we did the other day. So we have y equals A times B to the x. Okay, so the 3 is my x value and my 16 is my y. So we're on round 16. So 16 is y. A we don't know. B I found out is 1/2. And x is 3. So I could solve it that way if I want to. 16 equals A times 1 to the third power is 1 times 1 times 1. That's still 1. And then 2 to the third power, that's 2 times 2 times 2. That's 8. And then I could put this over 1 and multiply straight across here. So I get 16 equals A over 8. And since this is dividing by 8, to get A by itself, I can multiply both sides by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. So I get A is 8 times 16. And of course, when you multiply 8 times 16, you get 128, which is exactly the same number that we got doing this way. It's just two different ways to do the same thing. It's your choice. I will say that, of course, this really is only practical when you have small numbers. Like if they had said, on round 100, I had this many, no one in their right mind wants to go back 100 rounds. So then this method would be better. But if it's a small number, the table seems kind of easier. So it's up to you. Okay, so we'll write our final equation. Y equals, A value was 128. And then this one has to be in parentheses because it's a fraction. So 1/2 to the x power. There's my equation. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know through Google Classroom, Remind, email, whatever you need. I'm here for you. Have a great day, guys.